this is my review of that time I got reincarnated as a slime. Okay, so in this episode, things begin to get a little bit crazy. So the situation for basically there's a whole bunch of stuff, and it all revolves around Tempest and it being attacked. But there's a couple of other things that are just kind of happening off to the side as well. I'll get to those in a minute. But so it starts off with Yum and Myulan's. Well, basically. Myulan is nursing Yum back to health under a tree with Yum nesting his head on her lap. And Yum openly states that he's happy because if he had known he was going to get this kind of treatment, that he would have gotten his ass kicked by Hakaru a whole load of times ago. And Myulan merely responds back that he's a human and it's his own fault to actually getting into a fight. And Yum notably picks up on that and points out that she sounds almost like she's not a human. But immediately goes into a different thread, which is how he's just happy. How he wishes he could spend every day like that, which causes Myulan to become flustered, and she smacks him, calling him an idiot, and tells him that they need to go back to the festival to prepare. And he agrees, but states that he wasn't making a joke and that he actually does like her, which causes her to become even more flustered. But she just urges him to go back to town anyway, and the two proceed to go home. At which point Myulan begins looking around the town, and kind of looking at all the people interacting with one another. And also, while she's going there, she actually locks eyes with one of the dragon newts who are pushing a crate full of high potions through the town. And his buddies initially are like, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" And he really responds as nothing, and goes on his merry way. At which point she hears Yum and Grusha sparring in an alley nearby, rather loudly, I should add. And she goes to investigate, and is kind of impressed about how hard they're going at it, and it kind of jars some feelings loose about Yum, because she realizes that she does love him as well. At which point Demon Lord Clayman decides to come calling. So this is actually really confusing because there's no spoken dialogue, it's all in the head, and you have to use and it actually uses the subtitles, which is a brilliant way to do it, by the way, but I feel like that's going to be a little bit of a pain in the ass when they go to dub this. But in any case, this entire exchange happens in her head and Demon Lord Clayman basically tells Myulan that it's time for her to fulfill her end of the bargain, and he's happy with all the information she's collected, but now it's time for her to continue her end of the bargain and continue with his orders, and that she needs to lay low for a while until he actually gives her another thing. And she's a bit hesitant about the fact that she doesn't really want to. But he merely responds that if not, he'll attack Yum, stating that he knows that she loves him, and that she'll do anything to keep him safe, which she silently agrees to. And she openly asks what Clayman will have her do, pointing out that things are just going to be interesting, and that the situation has changed, and that she just needs to keep herself on the down low for now until he gives her more orders. And she agrees, knowing full well that if she doesn't do what Clayman says, he'll attack everybody in Tempest. And to be fair, he's probably going to do that anyway. But he's kind of rude. But he kind of just plays with her emotions a little bit, and he just kind of manipulates her this way by using her feelings for Yum to keep her in check. Basically, that's what he decides to do in this scene, and it shows. And once he disconnects his collect call with Myulan, he reveals to the audience that Myulan he is a little bit surprised about Myulan's choice of actions, and I'll get to that in a minute, because as it turns out, as Sui and his party actually revealed to Benamaru and the others, as it turns out, they actually see that the kingdom of Falmuth is actually preparing to go to war, and that they need to be prepared for something strange to happen. And as Benamaru is trying to take this all in, they actually get a call from Aldous on their little crystal ball thing that they have in the main office. And she tells them that they need to begin to take in refugees from Erzurania, because apparently Myulan has declared war on them. and they know Myulan pretty well, so they realize that this is kind of completely out of character. But they realize that until they can actually get in contact with Rimuru and let him know the situation has changed, they should most likely just assume the worst. And notably that the communication is a little bit spotty, so they don't actually get the full message. All they hear is that they're sending over people to be safe from the war, and that for the time being they just need to work on keeping everybody safe. So Benimaru agrees and realizes that they need to get in contact with Rimuru immediately because now everything is just going crazy. So they contact him. So they're prepared to contact him about the war and about how Myulan is now going to war herself, and they realize that they need to do something about that. Meanwhile, Shoko, Kyoto, and Kirara actually show up in the town and are basically disgusted that there are a bunch of monsters who are actually way better off than they are, and realize that and this only further motivates their plan to cause as much conflict as possible. And then they proceed to put their plan into action. So Kirara actually has a skill called Bewilder, and she puts it to great effect here. So Bewilder doesn't directly have an effect in battle, but what it does do is enables her to influence the minds of others, and she uses that by making it seem like Gobzo, one of the Goblin Riders, sexually assaulted her in the middle of the square, and then uses her skill to make it look like he actually did it, even though he knows full well that nothing happened. And she quickly believes that, and everybody quickly turns on Gobzo and realizes that something is clearly wrong, and start seeing things Kirara's way because of how her skill works, and they quickly turn to Gobzo. At which point Gobzo shows up and diffuses the whole situation. He apologizes on Gobzo's behalf. And then has him go into a deep bow to formally apologize. Although he does mutter under his breath to Gobzo that he completely believes him and knows full well that he didn't do anything. And Kirara overhears this and states that she believes that Gobzo is calling her a liar, and he doesn't deny it. He does basically call her a liar to her face. And openly responds that Gobzo isn't interested in people like Kirara. He's more interested in people like Shion, if you know what I mean. But he responds, and Gobzo is openly a little bit upset since he realizes that that was supposed to be a secret, and that and now it's not. At which point Kirara realizes that everybody is now coming out of the effects of her Bewilder and is starting to become ridiculed by everybody else. So, because now the situation has completely changed and now it's completely been diffused entirely because Gobzo is just being his usual hammy self. At which point she uses her Bewilder skill to declare that everybody here shall die, and then it doesn't work. And even then, Kyoka and Shoko are openly remarking that everybody in the immediate vicinity is going to die because they know that's how her skill works. But that it doesn't, and as it turns out, Shuna has a skill that enables her to negate other skills, apparently. It's not, I'm not entirely sure when she picked that up, maybe when she evolved, but apparently she has skills that are passive in nature, but do enable her to play a support role. And sure enough, she shows up and tells the three of them that they need to leave, pointing out that if they're going to cause trouble for this nation, that they can't be there anymore. And Shoko and Kyoka and Kirara notably, they get upset by that notion, pointing out that if they're going to be this dismissive of them because of an incident, that this place isn't really hospitable for anybody else. And Shion actually has enough of it and proceeds to battle against Shoko, and pointing out that if they're not going to leave by choice, that she'll make them leave by force. So Shoko is openly happy about this, pointing out that he's excited to have a fight, and Kyoka is openly excited to fight as well, pointing out that he has no idea what his skill actually does. So he's a little excited to see what it's going to do. At which point Gobzo tells Gobzo to get Shuna to safety while he deals with Kyoka. Meanwhile, Myulan has actually been given orders by Clayman and is his orders are basically to shut off communication from Tempest to the rest of the world, so that nobody can get in contact with Rimuru, and they can actually disrupt Tempest's ability to get in contact with the outside world. So basically disrupt magical communication so that they can't get in touch with anybody and ask for help. And so basically what happens is Clayman is going to be using this to his advantage to actually just wipe Tempest off the face of the earth by basically using Myulan as a puppet to disrupt magical communication so that they can't ask for help, and now they're going to be destroyed completely. But as it turns, Myulan realizes too late that she needs to actually act quickly. But as she's going to make communications to disrupt communications with a spell, Grucius actually stops her, and while it initially starts with him asking her out, he then drops the actual reason why he stopped her, which is that he received a conflicting message about Myulan declaring war on Urania, and he realizes that something is probably off. And he notices that, and he also notes that Myulan has been acting strangely lately as well, and concludes that they're both under the same cause. And Myulan realizing that she needs to get out of there and stop communications now, proceeds to leave, realizing that Clayman has been pushing her to stop communications because he didn't expect Myulan to declare war on Urania and just cause a whole bunch of problems that cause him to move up his timetable. So she runs off. But Grucius catches up to her and points out that he realizes that she's under Clayman's control, and that he has a habit of discarding people, and that she needs to be careful, and that he will protect her. At which point she remarks that, at which point he also openly collectively realizes that she's a Majin, because he's a Majin as well. He should know this. He knows this information. He knows that he can recognize a Majin when he sees one, and she realizes that talking isn't going to do anything. So she transforms into her Majin form and says that if he doesn't get out of the way, she'll annihilate him. But he again reinforces his point that she just needs help, and that he can help protect her. At which point Yum shows up and tries to talk her down. He points out that he loves her and that he doesn't want to see her get hurt. At which point she remarks that she's a Majin and that he could never love her, but he merely responds back that it doesn't really matter what she is and that he fell in love with who she is, and that he will love her regardless of who she is and what kind of person she claims to be. And Myulan merely responds that he could never love her because the person that he knows is a lie. But he merely pulls her into an embrace and points out that he will love her deceptions regardless of how they actually play out. At which point Grucius and Yum actually get into a fight because he points out that Yum just kind of may or may not have just kind of used that as an excuse to pull her into a hug. And while the two are distracted, she actually uses a spell to disrupt communications, pointing out to herself that as long as Yum is safe, she doesn't really care what she has to do. Although Grucius and Yum note that they need to stop her, that motion to stop her, but don't really know how, nor do they want to, because they realize that if they hurt Myulan, that they'll be killing the person they love, and they're not kind of conflicted by that. But this also combos with the Kingdom of Falmuth's own weapon, which I'm not entirely sure if this is actually what it does, but both barriers go up at the same time. One disrupts communications, which causes them to not be able to get in contact with Rimuru so that he actually knows what's going on. And the other, presumably, saps the strength of their opponents, because halfway during her fight with Shoko, Shion suddenly just collapses, noting that the strength is leaving her body, and Shoko seems to be very happy about the situation, pointing out that seems like she's lost her fight and is wondering if she's already tired. So basically this episode just kicks off a whole bunch of shit that's just going to hit the fan eventually at some point in the future. So basically the Kingdom of Falmuth has just decided to declare war on Rimuru and his city. And also on top of that, Clayman has decided to put a scheme into action, which has further crippled the kingdom of Tempest. So yeah, And also, Myulan is apparently a bad guy now. I mean, we know. I mean, I don't. There's very much the possibility that Myulan doesn't know that the kingdom of Yuzurane has arrived with Tempest, and she'll probably come to her senses on that eventually when she finds out her bestie is involved with them. But I'm assuming that Rimuru is eventually going to do something with that. But namely, the kingdom of Tempest is kind of screwed. Basically, the nation of Tempest is kind of screwed because now it has no way to contact its leader, who is currently outside of the country. And on top of that, they have a war on their doorstep, and they're constantly fighting several people. So yeah, all of this is just kind of clicking all at once, and it's clearly going to be a mess for Rimuru and his friends and his followers to actually sort out. If Rimuru ever gets involved at all, because again, they can't contact him. They have no way of getting information to the outside. So yeah, it's going to be very problematic for the Kingdom of Tempest, and they are going to need to, and the people of Tempest are going to need to figure out a way to basically win this war without Rimuru, or at least until Rimuru figures out what's going on and shows up to help. So I'm not entirely sure how that's going to play out, but I am looking forward to it because this season is starting to get interesting. This season is very much starting to get interesting. It started off a little bit slow, but now all of those plot points are just kind of threading together and are picking up, and now we have a full-blown war and a full-blown war arc now. So yeah, this is gonna be interesting. But in any case, that's my review of that time I got reincarnated as a slime. What did you guys think? Let's get a discussion going in the comment section down below, or over on my Discord server, link in the description. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, be sure to follow me on Facebook and on Twitter in the description below. And also, be sure to check out my Patreon in the description below as well. It's only a couple bucks a month. It really helps me out, and you guys get access to a bunch of cool perks, and I'm always saying thanks. So be sure to check those out in the description below as well. But in any case, thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, I will see you guys in the next video. Peace!